Good morning. I'm so excited we're here. Rose Diamond and I are like soul sisters across the world here and found each other. And we wanted to get together to talk about the new paradigm, the new feminine paradigm that we both are very deeply connected to. Rose, I'm so excited to sit and talk with you today.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here as well, Kate. I'm looking forward to our conversation, seeing where we get to.
Yeah, it took us a few times of scheduling snafus because she's in UK and I'm in New Mexico. So, getting that together. Tell me a bit about what you're doing right now and what you're seeing about this new paradigm.
Okay, well, it's a big question, really, isn't it? So the work I do is called Tribe in Transition. So my whole work is in looking at how we make the transition from what I call the old world to the new world. And the way I understand that is, I think paradigm shifts have happened throughout history, and that they happen really in response to changing conditions. And obviously, right now we're going through huge chaos and upheaval and destruction of the old in many ways, both good and bad. And I think what that's doing is it's drawing out from many of us a new consciousness.
Oh, yes.
And that's so that's part of what I'm interested in, is the new consciousness, and then how we then create a new culture from that new consciousness. So
Right. Right. I mean,
yeah.
like even this whole, incident with, Trump going in and becoming the president and everything getting so polarized has really shifted a consciousness in women. I heard recently there's more women going into politics to be of service and try and have a voice than ever before, right? We have the whole Me Too movement that's blown up and is about women saying no more. I'm going to speak up about this harassment and abuse, and it's so powerful. Like I have chills just talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, when I sort of watch the news on television, everything appears to be so awful, but actually what, as you say, what that's doing is it's pushing up, it's bringing into the light, it's bringing the shadow into the light, and it's also bringing out people's motivation to change.
Right.
There's a sense of urgency that we need to change. We really
Right.
need to change.
Right. And we've talked about this idea that, for me, it's the return of the feminine consciousness, right? And for many people, it's not just my view, right? That this idea of us as women initially reclaiming our connection with feminine, which we don't even really know because it's been so repressed, oppressed for thousands of years. It's like designing and redefining, what does that mean? And then when we can come into that reclamation and balance, we give voice to that in the culture and to support men as well to reclaim their feminine, right?
Yeah, yeah. I tend to think about it more in terms of a transition to wholeness. It's like the feminine is obviously it's the feminine that's been repressed. So all of us are kind of as you say, reclaiming that and remembering that. But it's then how we use that in harmony with the more masculine qualities and how we define that. So for me, one of the things I'm interested in is how we find a common language for this, that because we can use these kind of phrases, but do we actually mean the same thing? It's like really getting into it and say, well, what do we actually mean by that? Because I know if I talk about the feminine to some people, they're actually quite put off by that. So it's like how to find a language for this, which kind of people can really relate to and say, yes, that's what I'm experiencing.
Right. And I've spent years as a younger person feeling unsafe as a woman, right? And really having kind of an oversized masculine part of me that was very strong and took charge and really helped me get through a lot of things in my life. And so the feminine for me years ago was initially off-putting because I felt like I don't want to be like weak and the old idea of what feminine felt like, right? Back in the days when I grew up in the 60s, it was just like I don't identify with that. I didn't identify with my mom's version of being a woman. And
Mm.
so it was like very almost scary and, like you said, off-putting. And so it really took me some time to recognize how split off in a way I was from my own sense of power and beauty of being a feminine woman, you know? And it's really taken some time, because I think, you know, the patriarchal repression of the feminine was quite, you know, intense and very successful in having us completely feel not okay being feminine and not okay even identifying with that part of us.
Absolutely, totally. I think for me, you know, and a really important part of this is that, and part of my own sort of discovery of it all, is that the repression of the soul throughout history, you know, that our own knowing, our own inner knowing has been made not okay. You know, we've been taught, we've been conditioned over centuries to believe that we're not okay, that we're not worthy, that we don't know, you know, that we give our authority away to churches and other, you know. And I think a lot of this new consciousness, this new paradigm consciousness, is about reclaiming that inner power, you know, that inner knowing.
Oh yeah.
And for me, that's been a lifelong journey, and I've been sort of, you know, in the process for years now, and it's the most exciting thing in life to me, actually. It's just discovering.
I know, me too. Like, I just wrote my book last year about addressing this level of anxiety that I've felt as a woman. And in that, I talk about the empowerment process of reclaiming our worth in the first chapter, about being the queen of your mind, where you reclaim your self-worth and know that it's always been there. It will never leave you. But we've been, like you said, so disidentified from it that we think we have to earn it. We have to, like, figure out how to be good enough. And this is the new conscious. The new paradigm is like, no, you don't have to earn it. It's because you exist, right? You are this beautiful being. You are whole. You are a soul, and you're doing exactly what you need to be doing. And to have that sense of purpose and connection with yourself that has been seriously stuffed and hidden and repressed.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me in my life, it's been like the sort of peeling away the layers of the onion. You know, it's like, you know, and working with other people too, that we kind of cycle around the same issues over and over again. And each time we get sort of deeper into it, we get a bigger understanding of it. And always at the bottom, right at the core of that, is this sort of sense of unworthiness, which clings around the authentic self. So it's almost like you have to get through that sort of prickly briar patch of unworthiness before you can really claim the authentic self. And yeah, it's a big journey.
It is. And yet, you know, I don't know about you, but doesn't it feels to me like there's more of this energy of consciousness available now, so that people who do want to do this journey, it's going to go faster than it did for those of us who have been, like, creeping along trying to get there. Doesn't that seem true to you?
Absolutely. And that's what's so exciting about it, is I honestly know now that I'm part of a huge wave. There's a huge wave of women all over the world, but a huge wave of consciousness evolving, you know, and I kind of feel like I'm surfing on the wave of that. And you know, so even though I may be sort of here in my little house in Wales, miles from anywhere, I know that I'm part of this, you know, global wave of evolving consciousness, and that the more of us jumping on the wave, the faster it's going.
It's so true.
So that knowledge that may have taken me 30 years to get to, it can be transmitted really quickly now.
Yes.
It's very exciting. And that's, of course, what needs to happen, because I think for me, the new paradigm is like it's essential for our survival. You know, it's not just some kind of intellectual concept. It's really, I don't think that we're going to survive as a species unless we get to this place. And it's not just about the self. It's about, for me, that the authentic self is the doorway into that sense of the interconnectedness of everything. So that's really what it's about.
Oh, yes. I mean, and that's why, you know, I love that we connected, because it's like you speak my language, and it's so refreshing to feel supported in that vision, because that's exactly how I feel. This, like, urgency to support women to, like, wake up, step up, and do this work to not only be free to be themselves, but, like you said, to recognize we're all in this together. And this is what's going to really help make that shift, that huge leap in evolution of consciousness on the planet, which is really possible right now. And if it doesn't happen, yeah, we may not survive as a species too much longer.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, but it's kind of interesting because the whole thing is full of paradoxes. So on the one hand, there is this sense of urgency, like we've got to do this like yesterday.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, what I'm noticing in my own life and observing other people as well is that it's actually about slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were saying. I mean, I was brought up as a child. I learned how to to be super independent, take care of myself, and then as I moved into adulthood, it became quite sort of driven and getting stuff done in the world. But at this point, it's like I'm having to really so let go of a lot of that and just really be still a lot, and just because that's it's the receptive, it's the be open to receive. And I think this is the thing that many women are now learning to do, is like we don't have to be out there pushing and striving and driving and being superwoman.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's about being still.
Yeah, it's true. It is the paradox. I love that, how you said that, because that's very much how we're going to tap into that awareness of who we really are, right? We can't do it by being superwoman. And that certainly was my MO for most of my life, was being superwoman. And then I've had repeated experiences of an abusive marriage that I had to get out of, taking care of 2 kids and raising them by myself, essentially. And then going through cancer, repeated things that were like, no, Kate, actually the superwoman piece has got to go. You've got to start relying on a larger sense of resource in the world, right? Being more connected energetically and with the earth and with spiritual support and even people just reaching out and asking for help, which, of course, over the last 50 years, as women have been trying to gain equality, we've had to do I'm working and I'm super mom and I'm super wife and I'm, all these things. And we really have to redefine that now in order for it to be sustainable moving forward.
Yeah, that is such a big one, isn't it? That point where we actually, if we have been super independent, have to learn how to reach out for help and become vulnerable, because these things of being vulnerable is not a good thing. But actually what I've learned is that being able to be vulnerable is a real strength. There's strength in it, because it's like, if nobody can give to me unless I'm actually open to ask and receive, and that's where, again, that's part of the new paradigm. It's the flow of energy. It's the giving and receiving of energy. So if we're closed, then we don't receive. And I think that is a really big one for women, because if we've been hurt or wounded or whatever, it's difficult to really open ourselves up and be open-hearted and to be vulnerable and to say, actually, I don't know and I need help, and I can't do it all on my own. It's a big learning. It
is because we have to recognize, like, my experience is, the more that I was able to be vulnerable and ask for help and receive and be more true about my struggles, the more what do I want to say, kind of a sense of a different kind of strength, right? A different kind of wholeness could protect me in a different way. Whereas as women, or even just as humans, I think we think of, if my heart's open, I'm waiting for somebody to come smush it, right? And hurt me. Whereas, like in Buddhism, the bodhicitta heart, right, is like, you're so full of love and open and expressing that love and feeling that interconnection, that we're like powerful beyond belief. Like, there's no way to actually really be smushed, because you're emanating from this very soulful, powerful place of the wholeheartedness. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And that's also where the compassion can come in. I think that's the other part of the new paradigm consciousness, is that we need to develop our compassion. It's like, just I think about some of the things that are going on in the world right now, and it's easy to sort of take a stance of, it's terrible, but it's like, there's so much suffering in the world that I need to sort of make space for that. And also I can't be compassionate towards somebody else unless I've also accepted that in myself. So I think many of us are on a big healing journey at the moment, to really sort of clearing out all the little corners. You know, we're sort of sweeping out the the corners that are still dusty, and sort of looking at them and saying, oh, you know, or we might have sort of impatience or jealousy, or, you know, whatever. And it's like, how can I accept that in myself? How can I forgive that in myself? And therefore, when I really welcome that into the community of myself, then I can also accept that in others. So I think we're really being challenged to expand our compassion, because that's the unity. That's where we come into a sense of oneness with everybody. Right. And of course, some of our political leaders are really stretch the compassion muscle.
Right. Exactly. It's true though. I mean, and there's and the power of compassion isn't to then feel like, oh, I can't be okay or happy in my life because people are suffering. It is to recognize that part of our work is recognizing we're all on our own journeys and we are all interconnected. So the more that we do our own inner work to be our best self, right? To be loving and compassionate in ourselves, that we can hold space for that suffering in others without going into, you know, feeling overwhelmed and lost and disconnected. So it's a tricky balance. Yeah,
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Because I think as women, we've tended to shoulder, you know, burden, because we tend to be quite empathic often, you know, and feel a lot. It's certainly in my life, it's been easy just to shoulder a burden of all that suffering. Whereas I think, again, you know, you were talking about the Buddhist philosophy, there's the practice of Tonglen, where you just breathe it through. You know, so it's not about avoiding the suffering, it's not about avoiding anything, it's not about avoiding my own anger, you know, it's about letting everything be present, and but not hanging on to it, letting it move through. And that's what I'm practicing at the moment. Anyway, is like just allowing everything to be, giving everything space, you know, so it's a more spacious kind of way of being in the world, but letting it try not to hold on to anything.
Right. So let's take a moment and speak to women who may be new to this idea of this new paradigm, new to the idea of how do I start to step into working with myself, being willing to be open and vulnerable in a way that feels okay. What would you say in your work with women that you're seeing?
Well, I've come to the conclusion that, and again, that's a really big question, Kate, but I've come to the conclusion that it's actually all about self-love, you know, and so whether you're a beginner or not, you know, I actually feel like I'm always a beginner in a way. So I notice that if I'm feeling upset about something, or my mind's going to really active and it's, you know, the first thing I try and do is be loving to myself.
Right.
You know, to comfort myself, to say it's okay, you know, to say, okay, or just give yourself space to feel that.
Right.
Don't judge yourself, because we're so quick. I think all of us are so quick to jump into self-judgment. So, so the first thing is like, notice what's happening, give it some space, and then give yourself some self-love and encouragement, you know, as if you were your own you know, ideal mother. Like, what would your mother do? What would love do in this situation?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, so a lot of women that I work with are women who maybe are in abusive relationship situations, trying to get out of it, right? Or I hold space for women who've come through cancer and trying to find their way back into their bodies, back into their life, and without feeling terrified. And so sometimes the love piece is a leap. So I guess I would say for a lot of my ladies, it's like permission to allow your experience to be yours and know that it's real and true, no matter what other people say. Just starting right there is a step towards that self-love of saying, you know, what I'm going through doesn't matter what other people say or believe or want to hear about. It's true for me. And so therefore I'm going to own it and sort of give myself permission to experience that and all the feelings and stuff that goes with it. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yes. That's a kind of like the embracing it, that this is okay. It's okay to be, whatever is happening, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like when I was going through those experiences, it felt, everybody has their own perception and their own reaction when you're going through a difficult situation. And so we're not always going to get the kind of support we need because people don't know how to relate to that if they've never gone through it, or they're just terrified about it. Right. I mean, a lot of women going through cancer are very isolated feeling because women don't want to think about that it might be possible that they will have it. Right. So we just kind of, I don't see that. And so it's very much about how do I get the resource and support that I need from people who can hold space for that. And I think that's what you and I really love to do, it seems like, is to hold space for women that are in this transition and transformation. It's one of the reasons I'm creating this membership site called Women Empowered Collective. And it's to hold a space for women who are on this journey that can come together and have a way to connect. And I'm holding space for that and sharing the work that I'm doing just to have us another little space that's a place to go and get supported. All these different ways that we're doing it. Women are doing it all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so important, coming together in a group. And, as soon as we come together, because I think many of us do feel isolated, and especially with the conditions you're talking about, an abusive relationship or suffering from cancer, we tend to be, there's so many layers there of, judgment, self-judgment, self-isolation, and it's very easy to get isolated. And yet I always find, and I've been in groups for all my life really, that as soon as we come into a group, we actually have the courage to start talking about our experience, we immediately realize, okay, this isn't just me.
Right.
There's actually nothing wrong with me. This is just part of the human condition. This is part of what it means to be a human being. And it's such a relief, and that's what the wonderful thing that happens in groups is that, we actually become part of a, something bigger, a bigger consciousness. And it's very liberating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, I was going to say, and even the energy, like you're saying, it becomes this collective consciousness, right? That does become like a part of that new paradigm energy where things can move quickly, right? If everybody's together with that same intent and holding space with love, it's like, boom, you can really make some movement and progress quickly.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So one of the offerings I'm making at the moment is called Soul Sanctuary Circles, which is something I really love to do. And it's just holding a space for people who want to explore together what we're actually experiencing as we're making these transitions. Because again, what I'm looking for is that common language, because we all have our unique experiences, sort of different for each of us. And yet there's these common threads underneath, so somehow when we come together in that way, really with the intention of speaking from our deepest self, our deepest wisdom, something really magical can happen, I've watched it many over and over again. It's like you can feel the transformational energy in the group. It doesn't matter whether you're in a room together or you're in virtual reality with people in different places, and there's something happens that's almost tangible when people come together with that pure intent, just I'm going to turn up and I'm going to share from my experiences. So
it's super powerful. I was running a program focused with anxiety a few months ago, and I mean, those calls when we all got together were just potent and full of energy for awakening and noticing and connecting. And that's what's beautiful about what we're offering and what we're doing, because it's, again, giving women permission to open up and come out of your daily, schedule and start to think about, how am I present? How am I showing up for myself? And how do I want to step into the next level of who I am,
Yeah.
or expressing that or being that in the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so yes, making that space for yourself and having the courage, when I first started being in groups, I was really scared, I just, let's speak. And sometimes now I'm still the same, but every time it's like jumping into a pool, it's like, oh, yeah, once you're in, it's, wow, this is really refreshing. It's kind of regenerating and renewing and warm and comforting, like a warm bath.
I know. Well, and I love, so your group is starting next week. So I'm going to ask that, we put that in the comments so people can find that. And
Yeah.
then I'm collecting emails with people who are interested in the Women Empowered Collective, because I'm going to be launching that starting in June. And I'm sort of doing it in slow launches, right? Just so that we really build slowly and really create that energy connection that really becomes, like you said, like this palpable, safe place to be, to create change. So I'll be collecting emails for that. So I'll put my email down for women who are interested. You can just drop me a line and I'll put you on my list.
Okay.
Great. So in closing, I just want to say, this feels like we should be doing this maybe every month, do a call about like sort of our updated experience of the energy around this new paradigm.
Great. Fabulous. Yeah. It's really, I really feel your passion, and it's exciting to talk with you, Kate.
It is,
Thank
Rose.
you.
I'm so glad we crossed paths, and we'll talk again soon, and good luck with your group. And I'm so glad.
Thank you. Okay.
Blessings.
Bye. Bye.